Everything begins with our heroes heading toward the Great Tree, traveling in a ship created by Nagumo. Yua mentions that only 3 labyrinths remain. Then, Nagumo tells Princess Liliana that he will drop her off near the kingdom. The princess then talks about why they shouldn't visit the emperor of the Hulshire Empire. Shay makes a sad face when that topic comes up, and Tio explains to the princess that Shea has a tragic history related to the Knights of the Hulshire Empire, the Imperial Knights. Shay goes on to explain that all of this happened before she met Nagumo and Yue. The Imperial soldiers attacked her people, killing many of her relatives and kidnapping others. Tio adds that the Hulshire Empire condemns all beastmen to death simply for being beastmen. And as they know, Shay belongs to a beastman race. Many of her relatives are now slaves in that empire. Koki suggests to Nagumo that they should save the beastmen, but Nagumo responds that in this world, treating beastmen as slaves is normal, so they shouldn't get involved. However, he also tells Kuki that he is free to do whatever he wants. Kuki gets angry and leaves, with Shizuku following to calm him down. Kuki says that Nagumo is cruel for not wanting to save the Beastman race, but Shizuku reminds him that Nagumo has suffered more than they have and might just want to leave this world. Suddenly, they realize that Nagumo is changing the ship's course, so they go to ask what's happening. The others explain that Imperial soldiers are chasing some girls. Kuki tells Nagumo that if he doesn't save them, he will. But Nagumo tells him to calm down and asks Shay to check who they are. Shay identifies them as Lana and Mina. Kuki insists they should save them because they look weak, but then the girls suddenly defeat the Imperial soldiers, leaving everyone speechless. Yes, if you remember from the first season, Nagumo trained the Haulia tribe, so now they are very strong. The princess asks why those bunny girls are so strong, and Shay explains that they endured Nagumo's training. A battle breaks out between the Haulia and the Imperials. The Haulia defeat all the soldiers, but one survives and tries to attack the bunny girls, but Nagumo shoots him from his ship. Nagumo jumps from the ship and goes to greet the Haulia, congratulating them on how strong they have become. Shay asks what they are doing fighting Imperial soldiers and where the rest of the tribe is. The young man suggests they move to a quieter place to explain in detail. So, everyone boards Nagumo's ship, where the young man explains that one day, beasts attacked the Haulia tribe. After defeating those monsters, they were left without weapons, and that's when the Imperial soldiers arrived, claiming the Imperial capital had been attacked, and they needed labor to rebuild it. The tribe's chief left with a group of Haulia, but when they entered the Imperial capital, they lost contact with them. Nagumo then decides they will head toward the Empire. Shay tells Nagumo it's not necessary, saying her family is probably fine, but Nagumo gently caresses her cheeks and tells her there's no need to pretend. He reminds her that she is important to him, which makes her confess she is indeed worried about her parents. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the Hulshire Empire's prisons, where we see a beastman inside making a strange face. Moments later, our heroes are in the Empire, and Nagumo notices the disaster in the city, caused by monsters that attacked, or rather, demons. Beast children are being forced to work, and one of them trips. A soldier's about to hit the child for that, but Koki stops him. Nagumo tells Koki to try not to get into trouble, but Koki accuses him of being a bully because he doesn't want to protect Shay's relatives. Nagumo replies that Shay is different from the other beastmen. After investigating for a while, they realize that many of Shay's relatives had caused chaos in the city. Hours later, Nagumo wants Koki and the others to distract the Empire's soldiers by pretending they are going to rescue a beastman from prison, so he makes them Power Rangers helmets. Meanwhile, in the castle's prisons, the beastmen say that Nagumo is like a dark lord and believe he is an ogre. Nagumo overhears them and insults them. They think they are hallucinating. Nagumo then frees the Beast Boy from the cell, while Koki's group begins attacking the castle disguised as Power Rangers. Meanwhile, Shay's father, the leader of the Haulia, is being tortured, but tells the Empire soldiers they are weaklings. Nagumo calls him crazy. Yes, friends, that's Shay's father. But Shay begs Nagumo to save him, so Nagumo takes down the soldiers. He then tells Shay's father that everyone else has already been freed, and he is the last one remaining. Hours later, far from the Empire, all the Haulia reunite, and Shay cries with joy. Later, they meet with Nagumo, and Shay's father informs him that when they were captured, they were interrogated all day because the Empire wanted to understand how the Haulia had become so powerful. He then says he believes the Haulia are strong enough to declare war on the Empire. Shay tells her father to stop saying crazy things, but Nagumo, since he was the one who trained them, wants to hear the plan clearly to prevent them from doing something reckless. Shay's father explains that if the Halia keep defending themselves, they will all eventually be taken away, so it's time to strike. He insists they must protect other rabbitmen villages that aren't as strong. However, he clarifies that they aren't fools. It won't be a war, but rather silent, nighttime assassinations of the Empire's high-ranking officials. Nagumo makes it very clear that if they fail, it could mean the end of rabbitmen all over the world. Shay cries, fearing for her family, but Nagumo reassures her, promising not to leave her loved ones alone. He then tells the Halia that he won't allow any of their actions to make Shay cry. Therefore, the plan will change. They will have to eliminate the Emperor directly, along with his entire family and friends. The next day, Yue is kissing Nagumo and asks him if Shay is also special to him. He confesses that both she and Yue are the two most special people in the world for him. To keep her from feeling jealous, he kisses her again, and then everyone finds them kissing. Meanwhile, the princess is talking to the Emperor, telling him everything that has recently happened in their kingdom, including how powerful Nagumo is. The princess advises the Emperor not to mess with Nagumo. Then the Emperor mentions that 4 clowns wearing Power Ranger-style masks attacked them at night. Internally, the princess wonders if these guys are crazy for doing such a thing. The Emperor starts questioning Liliana, as he believes Nagumo was involved in everything that happened the previous night, including the escape of the Rabbitmen. To make matters worse, he says that one of the fools, dressed like a Power Ranger, had the same sword the hero uses, which means Koki. To worsen the situation even more, the king is informed that the hero Koki and his friends are at the palace gates looking for Liliana. Meanwhile, a captain from the Emperor's army receives our heroes quite honorably. However, things get uncomfortable when the captain asks why that rabbit woman, referring to Shay, doesn't have a slave collar. Shay remembers that he was the one who slaughtered many of her tribe. The man begins insulting her, saying she won't be spared, even if she's with the hero. He tells Koki to hand over the rabbit woman, claiming he can give him another one instead. Immediately, Nagumo intervenes and warns the man to behave, causing him to fly into a rage. Later, the group meets with the princess, and she asks them, "What the heck did you guys do last night?" She scolds Nagumo, saying she knows he was behind all of it. She tells them they need a good excuse to convince the Emperor they weren't responsible for the previous night's conflicts. However, Nagumo remains relaxed, knowing they can take down the Emperor faster than the princess expects. Nagumo and the others then appear before the Emperor, and everyone is surprised when Nagumo treats him with great respect. However, the Emperor tells Nagumo he knows a lot about him and can treat him like everyone else. He reveals that the princess told him everything about Nagumo, which angers him. Later in a meeting, the Emperor questions Nagumo about his powers and the flying ships, asking if he plans to share them with the Empire. Nagumo admits he possesses many things, but states he won't share them with anyone. Not even the Emperor can stop him. These words put the Emperor's soldiers on high alert. The Emperor sits in front of Nagumo and acknowledges that he is a true monster. The Emperor then demands the rabbit woman, but Nagumo refuses. He also asks Nagumo if he had anything to do with what happened the previous night, to which Nagumo denies involvement. The Emperor asks what Nagumo wants in exchange for allying with the Empire, but Nagumo replies that there is nothing the Emperor can offer him. The Emperor then leaves and invites everyone to the engagement party of Princess Lily with the Emperor's son, shocking everyone. Koki bursts out, calling her crazy, saying she doesn't even like that man. Meanwhile, Nagumo leaves, saying he doesn't care about the matter. Later, Princess Lily dresses for the engagement, and then the prince enters, dismissing the maids so they can be alone. He immediately tries to abuse her, saying he will take her virginity that night. However, Nagumo sends a robotic spider to attack him, and it seems like the prince died. Meanwhile, everyone is elegantly dressed for the engagement party, while the Halia infiltrate the kingdom, since that night will be the night they eliminate the High Command. Following the initial infiltration of the Halias, a group of soldiers patrolled the surroundings of the palace, chatting frivolously about their desires to have rabbit women for their amusement. However, the tranquility was shattered when one of them noticed something strange in the shadows. Intrigued, he went to investigate, but turned around to find only his companion's fallen torch. Before he could react, he was instantly eliminated by the leader of the Halias. With the sector secured, they informed the rest of the group that the area was clear, and that the next step would be to infiltrate the palace. Meanwhile, inside the palace, the nobility was enjoying an elegant banquet, The heroes, dressed for the occasion, mingled among those present. While some were busy eating, Nagumo watched the situation closely. In the middle of the event, Princess Lily appeared accompanied by Prince Bios, which generated an awkward silence in the room. After the surprise, the ball continued while King Gar presented his daughter to the nobility. Nagumo, surrounded by women, then seemed oblivious to the tension. Now, one of the women present mentioned the rumor that he had saved Lily from an attack, piquing the curiosity of the others. To avoid being bombarded with questions, Nagumo invited one of them to dance. During the dance, Princess Lily interrupted, moving ahead of the others to dance with Nagumo. As the two moved around the dance floor, they exchanged words in a confidential tone. Lily, very close to Nagumo, asked him if it was okay to get so close, since Prince Bias was watching with obvious hatred. The princess, with an air of defiance, replied that she did not care about the prince's reaction, since that night she would be recognized as heir, and Bias lovers would lose all power. She even hinted that, if she ever needed help, she trusted Nagumo to save her. He calmly assured her that she was already safe, and that the crown prince was finished, which reassured Lily. As the dance ended, the other women made envious comments, speculating about Lily's future marriage. For his part, Nagumo tried to enjoy the moment, but was interrupted by Sie, who informed him that it was time to act. Before leaving, Nagumo gave Sie permission to act freely, reminding her that, at this point, she was the daughter of the leader of the Halia and could do whatever she deemed necessary. In the main hall, King Gar began a speech about his son's engagement, but his speech was abruptly cut short when the lights went out and a shower of arrows rained down from the shadows. The Halias, strategically hidden, began their attack. Although no arrows directly hit the king, he defended himself with his sword and a wind barrier while launching fire attacks to protect himself. However, the Halias took advantage of the confusion to eliminate the king's guards. Elsewhere in the palace, Sie faced a group of reinforcements led by Grid, an enemy who had underestimated her. Grid forgot that Sie was part of Nagumo's group, where no one was weak. In a fierce clash, Sie defeated the soldiers one by one, until she was face to face with Grid. Remembering the pain he had caused her in the past, Sie, with unrelenting force, dealt him a devastating blow in the stomach, forcing him to beg for his life. However, far from showing mercy, he launched him into the sky and finished him off with a blow that sent him to the moon, fulfilling his longed-for revenge. Back in the hall, the paralyzing poison that the Halias had spread began to take effect. This weakened the king, allowing multiple arrows to hit him and strike him down. With the king vulnerable, the leader of the Halias declared that the kingdom must accept their conditions, to grant them complete freedom and never interfere in their affairs. To reinforce their point, they placed the necklace of the oath on the king, making it clear that they were not willing to negotiate. Despite these measures, the king refused to yield, even after they executed his son, Prince Bios. The destruction increased, and the Halias continued to eliminate soldiers and wreak havoc on the palace. Finally, on the verge of despair, the king publicly agreed to their demand, declaring that the Halias, by demonstrating their strength, had conquered the castle. With this victory, the Halias obtained the freedom they had longed for. Hashim, a key player in the strategy, was congratulated for his impeccable performance, thus sealing the victory for his tribe. Then we see Nagumo with the Halias on the ship, and he explains why Verbergen doesn't want them, and that is that they consider the Halias sinners. Although at present things have changed after the king speaks with Nagumo, clearly upset for collaborating with the Halias, and proposes his daughter as a wife. But the girls are offended, but the king reproaches the princess for being with Nagumo dancing, although he denies the relationship. And the king says that the princess not having a husband, the kingdom will weaken too much, although the boys are happy for Lily, since she could be with someone she wanted. And the king proposes anything to Nagumo, but he says that he has what he wants in his arms. Then they arrive at Altina, where we see the tribe happy to be freed, although the forest, because of Nagumo, is destroyed, and Kaori restores it using her powers. And the tribes get on their knees, thinking that she is a goddess. And Ulfric is grateful to our protagonist for saving his daughter, although he also thanks the Halia. Then, the tribes make a pact to unite alliances against the next threats, since eternal peace does not exist. Then, in the meeting, they talk about the instability that there will be after the fall of the kingdom, and Gahard is arrogant, since he does not owe respect to any beastman, only to the Halias, since the others are scum. Sagumo scolds him and sends him to a different place through the portal. Then he tells Kam to show him his village, although Ulfric tells him that he wants to give him a reward, and he accepts the reward. Then, in the conversation of the tribes, Kam refuses to make an alliance with the other tribe and threatens them, telling them that if they cause problems to Nagumo or them, they will have problems later in the house where the girls will stay. They ask about Shay, and her father arrives at that moment and tells our protagonist where she is. Then both are in a giant tree in which she says that it is her mother's grave, and she says that her mother was brave and a great warrior. Then she tells him that she would do anything to pay him back for everything that Sagumo has done for her. He asks her for something, and it is to sleep in Shay's lap. The next day they watch Kaori's training and how well she progresses, and the boys are excited about the adventures. In the palace we see the heroes eating, and Lily crossing through Nagumo's portal, and talks to the other people about her relationship with our protagonist and her gratitude for being a hero to her. Then, in the forest, Nagumo is with the boys to enter the labyrinth, reading the instruction, and we see how they enter, and already being inside. Nagumo says the direction where they have to go. Shay stops and asks him why, but suddenly he captures Yue, Tio, and the big hero, and points the gun at Yue while telling her imposter, and where the real Yue is, and shoots her in the shoulder. But seeing that she does nothing, she gets rid of them, and says that the portal sent them to another place. And advancing through the labyrinth, a noise is heard, and the boys prepare for combat, and it turns out to be a swarm of insects. We see how the boys strive to finish them off, but Nagumo, only with his gun, gets rid of them easily. Then, when they finished with, we see the boys very tired. Then, a monster appeared, in which Kuki wants to finish him off, but Nagumo stops him. The others are confused, and stares at him, and suddenly says that it is Yue, and the monster, reacting happily, turns out to be her. Apparently that portal changed her appearance, left her without equipment, and cannot use magic. Then, Kaori tries to use her regeneration magic, but it does not work. Moving forward, they see a monster receiving a beating by other monsters, and the girls realize that it is Tio. Then we see her in that monster form talking to Nagumo, and tells him that the labyrinth made their physical forms change to realize if the companions have the ability to know who is an imposter and who is not. Then when the boys teleport, we see our protagonist in a room, sleeping, in which Yue entered, to wake him up to go to school. Then at school we see Shay giving him a hug from behind and says in her mind that something is not right, and begins to analyze the situations in which she is. That day, already in her class, we see how he feels strange analyzing the day, and Kaori appears to have his attention, and Tio also appears as a teacher, dressed provocatively in the afternoon, walking with Shay, and Yue goes to look for Mew in kindergarten, although on the way she meets a group of thieves in which Shay stops them very easily. And at the end of the day, together with Yue, he begins to reflect on how he feels, having a full and happy life, although something inside him is screaming. Then Yue tells him that if something does to him, she is missing. She will give it to him, and then remembers the oath he made at that moment and realizes in the false world in which he is, and gives himself a strong punch and reproaches the false Yue for being a bad imitation, while he returns to his other body and manages to get out of that world, saying that his is better. And when the world breaks the fall, Yue says that, congratulations, easy things don't last long. True happiness comes from things that you work hard, that are useless if they give you everything on a silver platter. And his challenge ends, and he wakes up in a room where the boys are locked in capsules, with Amber having the idealized dreams. Nagumo exits the trial and sees the others inside coffins, and they won't wake up until they overcome their trials. So he sits down to wait for them, believing they will pass the test. However, the one he misses the most is Yue. At that moment, Yue's coffin unlocks, and Nagumo carries her out as she has just overcome her trial. When she opens her eyes, Nagumo welcomes her back. He's overjoyed because she is the real Yue, and they embrace. She tells him that in her trial, he was a king, and they had 11 children. Just as they are about to kiss, Shay interrupts them and starts crying to stop them from kissing. Nagumo then strokes her ears to comfort her, and Shay explains that in her experience, they all lived together in her tribe. However, something inside her told her that reality was fake. She saw Nagumo, began following him, and that's how she woke up. Nagumo tells her he's glad she came back, because nothing is the same without her. Suddenly, Ryuta wakes up, talking nonsense about his experience, and when he sees Nagumo, he goes to hug him, but Nagumo doesn't let him. Instead, he pats his head and welcomes him. Suddenly, Kaori wakes up, and Nagumo asks her about her dream, but she blushes, implying that it was something perverted. At this point, the only ones left to return are the heroes group. So, Nagumo says he's going to rest, while that group returns. Hours later, Shizuku is the first to wake up. She tells everyone that she feels very tired. She also dreamed that she was a princess and that Nagumo was the prince, but she didn't tell anyone about it. Since the others still weren't waking up, Kaori used her magic to wake them. Once everyone is awake, they prepare to cross the portal, though they're afraid because they don't know if they'll enter dreams again. However, when they cross, everyone stays together. They keep walking and suddenly it begins to rain. Almost immediately, they are attacked by rolling slimes. Yue creates a barrier and Nagumo defeats all the slimes. In the end, Nagumo tells Yue to keep the barrier up, but she dismisses it, saying she feels strange because she desires him intensely. In fact, everyone starts feeling this way except for Nagumo. Later, they overcome the issue, and Nagumo informs everyone that they are in an underground location. He explains that the tree is so massive that what they are looking at are its branches, not its roots. Even though they are underground, suddenly Shay looks into the distance and freezes. When Nagumo goes to check, he sees millions of cockroaches below, something he finds extremely unsettling. He sends one of his machines to show the others the millions of cockroaches. Then, out of nowhere, the cockroaches charge at them to attack. Yue puts up a barrier, making the cockroaches retreat and form a ball, summoning super cockroaches. But that's not all. The portal emits a strange light that suddenly makes Nagumo hate Yue, and she also says she hates him. If you made it to this part of this video, comment the word Anigoat, subscribe, and remember, I upload 3 videos daily. I'll be waiting for you in all 3.